I'm Dr. Yvonne Cason, the president of Spiritual Awakenings International. Happy winter solstice, Merry Christmas, and Happy Hanukkah. No matter what you're celebrating, we wish you a happy one. We are delighted that Spiritual Awakenings International is truly international. We have subscribers in 112 countries now. So please take a moment now and put into the chat where it is you're joining us from today. I'm joining you from Toronto, Canada, and our speaker is joining you from Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. But we have people here from California, from Oregon, from all over the world. So welcome, everyone. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, my dear friend, Heather Grace Gurd. Heather Gurd is a childhood near-death experiencer and a multiple STE experiencer. She is currently a popular meditation leader and a retired therapeutic touch practitioner and teacher. At the age of 4, Heather's powerful near-death experience gave her many psychic intuitive gifts as after effects, including the ability to perceive subtle energies. Defying many health challenges, in 1977, Heather started her intense exploration of consciousness and healing by traveling around the world, visiting sacred sites, and studying world religions, mythology, storytelling, mystery schools, sacred geometry, and more. And Heather Grace Gurd leads an incredible online meditation every Sunday. So it is my pleasure to turn it over to Heather Gurd. Heather.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here today with each of you. Thank you for being here at solstice, this incredible time of year. And today I get to share with you three of the near-death experience, three of the spiritually transformative experiences that I've had that led me to these beautiful paradigms: the Pyramid of True Relationship and the Chartreuse Labyrinth with the six-petaled rose. Now, before I just get into that, I want to give great thanks to you, Dr. Cason, for writing these books, because the well-defined language, the good storytelling in a medical model liberated me, and I'm sure many others. And it's why I am here today. It gave me the bravery to share stories that I've never told anybody everything about before. So as you know, this is called The Way of Love. And to define the Way of Love philosophy, it's very simple. Love God, love each other. The other way you could put it is practice the golden rule and align with the divine. So this is ancient. It is found in many cultures where the divine was recognized as flowing through everything. And to define God, I really like Dr. Cason's definition: the infinitely loving, higher power behind the universe, infinitely intelligent, underlying all of creation, past, present, and future. I also love these terms: the absolute, the undivided, the source, all assuming the loving and conscious. But I use the oneness in my meditations. That's the term that I would use for God as a rule. I love them all. So part one is where I had a near-death experience as a preschooler. And just to give you a little bit of background, I want to show you this picture of my mother. It's an aura picture that was taken just a few weeks before she died. And you can literally see her halo and her wings. And I love her so much. She was 15 years old when she got married in a rural community, and she married for true love. She and Dad report that they had the greatest time of their lives during these early years of marriage, where they were running the farm, looking after the animals, tending the crops. They were very involved in the community. They were teetotalers, but incredible musicians. They loved to sing and dance and harmonize and play games. It was a really wonderful community to grow up in, and it was really wonderful to be born to people who were so in love. But I brought a big challenge into their life when I was born in 1957. So this was where I was born with a fatal renal condition, and it resulted in very high fevers and convulsions, as well as my kidneys disintegrating. It was unbelievably painful and very scary for my mother, well, for everybody. And I remember the blood curdling scream as she applied ice to try to reduce the swellings and the fevers, that the scream just left with every ounce of my being. And then I was gone. I was no longer in my body. I was floating above my mother. And immediately I got worried about her. I was like, oh, I think mom needs help and I should find dad. And instantly I was flying out the window and I could see my father in the field. And I thought, I've got to go talk to him and get him to come and see dad. And then I was just in this beautiful light, this beautiful, entirely other field, which still defies words for me. I'm sure you've heard terms like it was home, it was love perfected, it was warm, but it was, it's still so big, and it brings tears to my eyes just thinking about it, because I had no pain. I could communicate clearly, which is something for a sick child to all of a sudden have this freedom. And I was communicated with. And I wanted to go back. I wanted to be with my mom and dad and my sister and the farm animals. And I did. I got back into my body. And I want to share this picture with you. This is my sister, older sister. She was 3 years older than me. Here we're around 6 and 3, or maybe 5 and 2.5. But my sister took care of me. She really was a great helper to my mom. And I dedicate this presentation to her. She died earlier this year, quite suddenly and unexpectedly. And I got to help take care of her. And love is eternal. Anyway, I would have these terrible bouts of illness. And what happened around the time I was 4 is that Sick Kids Hospital, the Sick Children's Hospital in Toronto, there was a doctor there who was working on a surgery that would correct the issue that I had. And this surgery was offered to me. There was a 50% failure rate. 6 children had had the surgery, 3 of them had died. And this was explained to me that I was going to die if I didn't have the surgery. And if I had the surgery, I might die. I might not come off the table. And I was good with that because I knew if I died, I was fine and I would have no pain. And I was told if I had the surgery and it was successful, I would also have no pain. So clearly, I survived. And this is a picture of the family taken within a year after that surgery. And I love this picture. We were getting ready for my uncle's wedding. Mom made our outfits. You can see how proud and happy dad is. I'm now about 6 and my sister is 9. And as a 6 year old, I was very clumsy, very dyslexic, cripplingly so, very awkward, but I always had a twinkle in my eye and a smile on my face. You can always see it. And that was because I came back from that near death experience with these gifts. I would have dreams that were real. So I would dream something that was happening in real time, or it was a dream that happened in the past that was true, or it was a dream that was in the future that would come true. I could see light around people, and I knew, and the light was various shades of brightness to dullness to black. And I knew when people were sick, if and when they were going to die, what part of their bodies was a problem. I also knew if they were full of love and spirit. I knew if they were going to have a baby, and astral travel. I loved flying. And the thing is, I thought everybody could do this. I thought this was just part of the human condition as I was a child. Um, and I came back understanding that what I thought of as this big love flowed through everything. It was in the rocks, the trees, the water, the clouds, and people. And these I played with the trees and the rocks and the water and the clouds. I loved people. And I just had this healer's heart where I wanted to help and I wanted to touch. And that often did help. And I was called Nurse Heather at the hospital and at the little church that my parents took us to, which was a lot of fun. But here's the thing. When I talked about flying around or having a dream that was true, it freaked my young mother out. It really freaked her out. I could tell she would be upset about it, and I stopped talking about it. And everything just got forgotten about and went away. I came more into my physical body. I got stronger. I grew up. But even though these gifts faded away, the knowings never did. And they shaped my life and guided my life much more than I realized. But the first knowing that I had was that I was never ending, that my body could die, but there was a part of me and therefore everybody else that continued on, that I was never alone. And I knew this because when my body had quit, I didn't get up to that golden light because my parents took me. There was some unseen mechanism. So I knew I was always being watched over from a certain unseen perspective, and so was everybody else. And then finally, I knew that when I connected to what I thought of as that big love, whether it was in people or animals or rocks, it strengthened me. And that was huge because my teenage years were very difficult. I was cured of the condition that I had from the surgery, with the surgery, but that also set up some other problems for me. And in my late teens and 20s, I was averaging surgery 3 times a year, major surgery. My dream of becoming a nurse went out the window. I also was despairing over man's inhumanity to man because I was seeing terrible things that were going on in the world. And I couldn't become a nurse. And so I thought, well, I'll just keep on learning and living and loving. And that's what I did. And I got to go to university where I tried to major in French, but failed because I was too dyslexic. And back in the 70s, there was no spell check. And if you had a spelling mistake in your paper, you lost a grade. So you could go from an A++ paper to an F. And that's what happened. I was thrown out of the department. They said, you cannot major in French. We're giving you a gifty-50, but you can't come back. And that day I ran into Tom Bentley Fisher, who headed up the very prestigious acting stream at that time at the University of Waterloo. And he said, Heather, why didn't you audition to get into this acting corps? And I said, because I'm not going to make my life living as an actress. Again, I was not physically fit enough. And he said, oh, we're going to make exceptions for you, and we're going to do this and this and this. And they allowed me to come in. And so that's what I did. And it was through that drama department that I started my practice of meditation and yoga. So I started that in 1977. And I just continued to work. My hobby became improv comedy. I love music and romance and comedy. I got into improv comedy. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Whose Line Is It Anyway, but those games were created by Keith Johnston, and it was a lot of fun. And it was through that group that I met and chose to marry my life partner. We've been together for 43 years. And comedy was just the best thing. And we got married, and my dream came true of having children because I'd been medically assured I could never have children. And in fact, I was scheduled for a reconstructive surgery so that I might be able to do something like carry a child. But I had been assured that I could not conceive at all. And I did. And I believe it was because of the connection that my husband and I had in love. My son's life was very challenged, and it led me to therapeutic touch. And it turned out that therapeutic touch is really what became my anchoring modality as a healer. Now, therapeutic touch was developed by nurses for nurses, and the founders were Dr. Dolores Krieger and Dora Kunz. And therapeutic touch has been described as a moving meditation. And I, Nurse Heather, took to therapeutic touch like a duck to water. At that point, I'd been meditating for years. And the teachings in therapeutic touch about how to become grounded and centered, to have peace no matter what, how to work in that transpersonal field where the inner part of you connects to the inner part of somebody else. Well, again, that's something I'd sort of been doing my whole life. And their definition of compassion, which was maintaining one's equanimity and emotional detachment from the other's state of disease or energetic imbalance, was a great teaching for me because being so sensitive and empathetic, it was easy for me to fall into other people's dramas and traumas. But this teaching grounded me, and it really saved me, and it absolutely saved my marriage. And we continue on. So we go to part two because therapeutic touch led me to every other spiritually transformative experience I've ever had. And I wanted to say something else about that, but I forget at the moment. These STEs. Anyway, therapeutic touch nurse and teacher and practitioner. She was an RN, Helen Will. She invited me to go with her to this healing pilgrimage with Dr. Carolyn Mace in Egypt. And it was mostly doctors and nurses. There was about 500 people. And Carolyn Mace had written the book, The Spirit of the Anatomy, very famous book, and the Therapeutic Network was all over it. And I got to go. It was incredible. And the very first week, 4 of us therapeutic touch practitioners got to meditate in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau under the cusp of a full blue moon. And it was wonderful because I'd had a meditation that afternoon in Egypt, and I saw the 4 of us lying together with our heads together and spoke out in the 4 directions with equality. And it was all new to me, but here we are now. This is Helen Will. All of these women are RNs, registered nurses, except for myself. So this is Helen Will. This is Emma Jean Borden, Evie Kugelman, and myself. Helen was air, and Emma Jean was earth, and Emmy was fire, and I was water. And we laid with our heads together. And even though we're laying on coal, well, on stone in the middle of the pyramid, I was able to go into a deep meditative state right away. And out of the blue, this voice that sounded like it was coming over a megaphone, kind of with that echoey sound, and it shook me. And the voice said, "What do you want?" And I thought, what? I opened my eyes. Of course, it was pitch black. And I thought, who is this? Is this God? Is this like an Arabian fairy tale? Is this a genie in the bottle? Do I really get to make a wish here? What do I want? And I just surrendered and went with it. And I got a picture of the earth. And I knew. And I said, I want peace on earth and goodwill to all. And that was it. I went back into meditative state. I was floating again. And then the voice said again, "What do you want?" And I pulled in as, what do I want? And I thought about my family. And life was tricky. And I wanted something for everybody. And I asked for something for my husband and my daughter and my son. And then I went back into this floating in this deep, deep blue. And the voice said again, "What do you want?" And I pulled in further and I thought, what do I want? What do I want? Well, I want never to have another surgery again. Because by that time, I'd had at least 20, plus a couple of accidents. It's like, are you kidding me? I'm supposed to be in the prime of my life, doing volunteer work, helping others. And here I am always being so needy. I hated being so needy. And that was, so I said, I want to never have to have another surgery again. And then the voice said, why? And I just broke. My heart just shattered and I was crying on my inside. And it was like, I'm tired of always receiving. And I got an intervention there. And it felt like something brushed over my forehead very softly. And I heard in a quiet voice, "Don't you know? You can't receive without giving, and you can't give without receiving." And then I was shown all of these little movies of people giving and receiving and how good communities relied on this. And I got it. I saw it, that giving and receiving really are two sides of the same coin. When you are receiving, what you are giving is the other person to expand their heart and to hone their skills. That's what you give when you're receiving. And of course, when you're giving, you're getting exactly that opportunity to let your heart be open and to hone your skills. So I went back into this meditative state, deep meditative state. And the voice at that point said again, "What do you want?" And right at that moment, it was in the back of my brain. It was like a neon sign in pink, and it spelled out the word need. And I got it. And I realized I'd always taught my kids, what you need will be provided for, and what you want, you have to work for. And in that moment, it was like, oh, right here and right now, I want nothing. And I was inspired to say that 3 times. I want nothing. I want nothing. I want nothing. And then I burst out of my skin. I'm flying, or it was like I'm going down a fast, fast river. And then the voice said, what do you need? What do I need? I ask myself, what do I need? And right at that moment, I was given a life review. And it was nothing like I'd ever read or seen in movies or heard about or discussed. Life review. It was nothing like that. The picture that I got, but it was moving very, very fast, looked like this, which is a picture of the Milky Way. But it was like, if you can imagine, all of these little lights were people. And in my expanded state, I knew exactly who everybody was. And I was on this trajectory. Let's pretend I'm this little light down here. Well, I'm on this trajectory going up. And as I'm going up, all of these other people are coming into my life. And what I could see very clearly is that this is the lesson that I got. I made a slide for it. That before I even knew I had a need, another life was preparing to meet that need at exactly the right time and place. Furthermore, my needs were known long before, and sometimes, in some cases, lifetimes before I became aware of them. And I got it. My needs, just like I said to my kids, your needs will be provided for. My needs were provided for again by this unseen mechanism. And I got it. And I said, I need nothing. I need nothing. I need nothing. And then, ka-frickin' boom. It was like I got shot out of a cannon. It was loud. I am now hurtling through black space. And there are these big white orbs, and some are in clusters, some are big, some are small, some are close by, some are far away. And as I'm moving through space, they're almost like moving in slow motion, passing me by. And I wondered what they were. Were they points of consciousness? Were they people's souls? Were they planets, stars, white blood cells? I had no idea. I was just in awe. So I'm moving through this black space with these white orbs, and then I come face to face with the yellow, golden, beautiful field that I had met when I was a child. And here I was shown my dharma and my destiny, or my purpose and fate. And again, it took me a while to understand what I was being shown, because if you can imagine a child's drawing of a star with sort of these compartments in the points, it was like I was seeing courses that I'd taken and things that I was able to do being put into different categories, from becoming a good hostess like my mother was and organizing social events, to performing comedy, to studying healing arts. And it all came together in this sort of dazzling note and light. And I understood that it was me, that was my vibration in the universe. And that I got a picture then of myself in this lifetime fully actualized. And what I understood was that it all had to do with this big love that was inside of all of us. my own authenticity, what I was drawn to, and who I was and who I am, and sharing in community. And that is what would bring me to, um, I guess, my destiny. And it was interesting, especially on a certain level, because Dr. Carolyn Mace was talking about our purpose, and she was talking about archetypes. It was at the time that her book on archetypes came out, and how we have all of them inside of us, on and on. And she said this in one of her lectures. She said, "What if your purpose in life is just to be as sweet as you can be? What if your purpose in life is just to be exactly where you are, doing exactly what is in front of you?" And I agree. In fact, I couldn't agree more. Sometimes it's just doing what's in front of you, which can be drudgery, difficult, challenging, and just staying with that love that's inside, just being as sweet as you can be. So I came home from this extraordinary 2 weeks, and I immediately got this download of a chakra cleanse meditation, which I called the Gypsy Meditation for Unification, because the Egyptians, from some level and perspective, became original gypsies teaching great mysteries. And the Gypsy meditation was this chakra meditation that used words and symbols, and you dropped them into your centers of consciousness, and they would dissolve the congested energies that had accumulated there over the day or the week, whenever you did it. And it worked. And I shared this with the International Therapeutic Touch Association. I shared it with the Ontario network as well. And it just worked. So that this happened in 1999 when I got this. And I practiced it. I used it myself every day. I self-published this recording. I would listen to it. Others reported great results with it. I did it every day. And then around 2005, I got another gift from the pyramid. And here it was, where it was on a Saturday morning, early in the morning. I was dreaming, and I had a vivid, vivid dream. And I was a bird, a falcon, and I was flying over the desert. And I came upon this pyramid. And as I flew over it, looking down, the points were aligned with the directions, north, south, east, and west, and words started to be written in the sand. And and then onto the pyramid, and I'm looking at all of these words, and I suddenly wake up. I grab my clipboard and pen and paper, which were beside the bed. I sit up and I'm drawing what I saw and trying to write out all of these words. And I could not for the life of me figure out what was the foundational word at the bottom of this structure. And in the dream still, I had asked, "What is this?" And the answer was the pyramid of true relationship. So here I am sitting up trying to draw this all out and put all of these words down. I can't get the south word. And right then the phone rings. It's like 6:30 in the morning. I pick up the landline beside the bed, and the voice says, "Acceptance." And right in front of me on my clipboard, there was the word acceptance. I'd even underlined it. And I said, "What?" The voice said again, "Hey, it's acceptance." And I went, "Mikey?" And Mikey said, "Hey, Hev, it's Mikey. And I just had to call you to tell you that what my mother gave me as a Black kid, adopted into a big white family, 8 of them, what she gave me that made me feel loved was acceptance." And I said, "Mikey, you've no idea what's going on here. but I'm going to be sharing this paradigm. I explained it to him and I said, and every time I tell this story, I will talk about this moment of confirmation. Incredible. Now, the pyramid of true relationship schematically looks like this. Imagine that this number one here is the north corner, and its foundational value is honesty. There are four foundational values: honesty, trust is in the east, in the south is acceptance, and in the west is respect. And when we align with these four qualities, we come into true relationship, and qualities grow from them. From honesty grows integrity, and the spiritual gift received is truth. From trust grows innocence, and the spiritual gift received is grace. Then in the south, the foundational quality that we align with and practice is acceptance. Acceptance grows presence, and the spiritual gift is peace. In the west, we practice respect. Respect grows charis. Charis is a word for one of the 6 types of love that's taught in the way of love. And all it means is an overflowing of kindness that is egoless. There is no agenda, there's no competition, there's nothing but equality. And it's this overflowing kindness, charis. And then the spiritual gift received is revelation, those moments of aha, where you suddenly understand something. So this is how it looks schematically. And I shared this, and I wanted to teach it to my granddaughter when she was around 10 years old. And I wrote a little play in poem, like a Dr. Seuss poem. It had 3 characters: the fairy godmother, the mother, the granny, rather, the fairy godmother, the granny, and the child. And you can read it for free on my website. It's only about 10 minutes long because it was designed for children. And Fran Gallagher Shoebrook was the therapeutic touch person that workshopped this with me and my granddaughter. And Tim Godin did the art for us for this play. And he, in fact, did the art for all of this PowerPoint presentation, and I owe him a debt of gratitude. And anyway, I shared it and to people immediately, and eventually in the therapeutic touch networks. And the result was really wonderful. People would tell me that this pyramid of true relationship, when they introduced it at work and they aligned with the 4 base qualities, that productivity and morale went up, that families who taught it to their children or introduced it to their families, and they started practicing those 4 base qualities, more harmony would come. So it was wonderful. It was wonderful to be able to share it. And I love this picture. At the end of the play, the child says, "Well, Granny, how do I know if people are true or not? People lie." And fairy godmother says, "Yeah, it's a tricky spot." And Granny says to the child, "Just grow these qualities in yourself and you'll see. There's a part inside of you that will know quietly." So that takes us now to part 3. I started practicing, I worked meditation and yoga around the qualities of the pyramid of true relationship. And I ended up in 2013 going to France with Catherine Graham. We went to the Chartres Cathedral and got to walk the Chartres Labyrinth. And you can see it here. The Chartres Labyrinth, what defines it is the 6-petaled rose that's in the middle. Now, in 2009, I had read Kathleen McGowan's book, The Source of Miracles, and it fascinated me because it is her experience, her own spiritually transformative experience that she had that led her to study the life of Mary Magdalene, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and then to travel around the world and study in more detail. And through the oral tradition, she learned that Mary Magdalene and teaches that Mary Magdalene ended up on the shores of southern France. She started a community there. She built the first Chartreuse labyrinth there. And the Chartreuse labyrinth, as I said, it can be defined by this six-petaled rose. And that the Chartreuse labyrinth is actually ancient. It comes through the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon in the tradition. And it the six-petaled rose has got these qualities within each petal. The first is faith, then surrender, then service, then abundance, then forgiveness, then overcoming. These are the historic values of the six-petaled rose. So I'm in the cathedral, I'm walking this labyrinth, and I'm right up, I even know exactly where I was. I was right about here, just about to come into the curve that leads you into the six-petaled rose. I was here. And a hand touched my shoulder, and I heard the words, "Hello, Heather." And at the same time, the top of my head sort of blew open. And it was the first time in my life I really didn't know if what I was experiencing was physical or non-physical. But in fact, it was Janie Green, a fellow therapeutic touch practitioner who I'd met about 12 times in my life at various conferences. And she and I had actually walked the Chartreuse labyrinth that Helen Will had built on her property. And here it was, God's odds. We'd met in the middle of a labyrinth, in the middle of this cathedral, in the middle of a walled town, in the middle of France, in the middle of Europe. And right there, it was amazing. We hugged, we continued the walk, and right afterwards, we took this picture of the two of us and we decided, okay, we're going to give each other a therapeutic touch treatment after lunch. So we all went and had our lunches and we came back. Now the cathedral was under construction and we found this little alcove where nobody was. There was a few candles, couple of pews, and the Black Madonna. Now, the only thing I knew about the Black Madonna at that point was what I'd learned in Egypt by going to the museum there, where there are statues of Isis and baby Horus that look like the statues that we would see today of the Madonna, of Mother Mary and baby Jesus. And that's what they were modeled on because in the Egyptian stories, at that point, Isis was representing the Queen of Heaven, and baby Horus was the divine male child who was born on earth. But I found her just a little bit scary and big. And anyway, there was no question that we were on hallowed ground and in sacred space. And we just started our treatments, and Janie gave to me first. It was beautiful. And there's always a rest period after TT. And so I rested. And afterwards, I turned back to look at Janie, who was in the pew behind me, and she had tears coming down her face. And Janie said, "She spoke to me, Heather," pointing to the Black Madonna. She spoke to me. And she said, "They've been waiting for you and to welcome you here." I was blown away. What? Okay. And I just went with it and I started Janie's treatment. So she sat in front of me. And before I started, I gave thanks to the Black Madonna and everyone and every sentient being that and angel that was from this way of love that had brought this tradition of love forward. So everybody from the Black Madonna to Mary Magdalene to Jesus of Nazareth, everybody, I just gave thanks to everybody. And then I put my hands on Janie's shoulders and I started the treatment. It went very well. And at the end, I took my hands off of her shoulders to separate, and it was like I was struck by lightning. While in the pyramid, that was the longest STE I've ever had. This one by far is the fastest and the most painful. It was loud, it was brilliant, blinding. It was like lightning went through the top of my head, down into the earth by miles, and then came back up. And as it did, I became a tree. It was like I had huge roots going down into the earth and this soaring trunk, enormous branches that reached well outside of the cathedral limits. Then there were leaves and then flowers and then fruit, this golden yellow fruit. And I was thrown back onto the pew and I was just dazed. Now, Janie had her rest period, and then she turned back to me and she said, "Was that as good for you as it was for me? I feel like I need a cigarette." I was like, I was just stunned. I was speechless. And I also was not well. I was in so much pain. I can't even begin to tell you to describe it. Just my nerves, it was like I was fried. And the only way I got through the last of that part of the trip was the French wine, I think, and getting as much sleep as I could until I got home, where I continued with my daily practice of saying the Lord's Prayer with the Chartres Labyrinth, going into the six petals as I'd been taught by the book to do, just in my mind, going into each petal and saying phrases of the Lord's Prayer with the six-petaled rose. So I'm at home. This is right after I get back from France, doing this protocol, and the tree came back. But this time it was much softer. And each petal landed in the major chakras: faith at root, surrender at sacral, service at the solar plexus, abundance at the heart, forgiveness at the throat, and overcoming obstacles at the third eye. And I owe a debt of gratitude to Megan Watterson, who describes herself as a feminist theologian. She is a Harvard grad seminarian, a beautiful woman who is the real deal. And it was her books that after and later taught me that what service means in the way of love tradition is to merge our humanity with our divinity, to meditate, to come into oneness. So I'm saying this prayer, the petals are landing with these words, and what also happens is I get corresponding harmonic words as well as a non-gender metaphoric version of the Lord's Prayer. And the words that came in harmony were these: love is always eternal, but faith is knowing, surrender is flowing, service activates, abundance is where we say breathing co-creates, forgiveness unifies, and overcoming obstacles is the path of the wise. So I got that. I also got this Lord's Prayer in a slightly different version. And it kind of scared me to death on one level because I also, at this same time, I had a vision. I saw Jesus as a yogi and his disciples, of course, as followers, looking at what he did and how he did it. Um, and while I shared everything with everybody, this happened in 2013, it took years for me to bring this forward because there was a part of me that just felt, I guess, historically, women have been burned at the stake and murdered for much less and tortured for much less than having even these ideas or visions. And it wasn't until COVID, what had happened right before COVID was a person who was driving a truck. I was going 70, driving, pulled into my lane and hit me head on. And I was just stopped for about 5 years. I had a very bad concussion. But meditation was my rock. And during that time, from about 2017 until around 2022, it just percolated. And somewhere around 2022, 23, I developed a website so I could lead the Sunday morning meditation that I was already doing, and it had already been doing it for about 5 years. And I also understood in this moment why those sentences of I want nothing and I need nothing that I got back in the pyramid were so important, because they are words of faith and surrender. And I recommend those sentences highly for any meditation you're ever going to do, just to say in those moments. Okay. So I'm going to share with you very briefly how the meditation that I developed, that I share for free every Sunday, works. And it goes like this. First, we start with what's in white is the version of the Lord's Prayer, and what's in gold are the words from the poem that I got. So it goes, beloved oneness, hallowed be thy vibration. Faith is knowing. Thy music come, thy song be sung. Surrender is flowing. In us, as it is in the womb of creation, service is merging, and service activates. In oneness, there is abundance. Breathing is nourishing, and breathing co-creates. And we are liberated. Thus we liberate others. Forgiveness unifies. And we are illuminated. Seeing all perspective is the path of the wise. Now, through oneness, we transcend to live and love and merge again. I want to thank you all for being here today. I welcome all of your questions. And before that moment, I just want to share that what did happen, I guess during COVID, it was around 2019, Emma Jean Borden, Helen Well, Evie Kugelman, and myself were reunited on a conference call. It was the first time we were all in the same place in that 20 years. And we did a meditation together. And I was able to share that the Chartreuse Labyrinth is on the floor of the pyramid of true relationship. In true relationship, we come into love perfected. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. That was absolutely phenomenal and inspirational. Thank you. So if anybody has any questions for Heather, please put them into the chat and I'll be happy to ask them for you. I'll start with a comment and then a couple of questions just to get things going. I was really touched by you sharing your realization that Jesus was a yogi, because yes, that has been one of my realizations too. I call myself a Christian yogi, and as a follower of Jesus, he was a yogi too. Um, so I have two questions. First off, I'm going to ask you about those white orbs that you saw in space. Have
Yes.
you come to any understanding now of what they were?
Mm, well, two things. After I read your books and I shared the story for the first time, that part with a girlfriend when we were in the pool, just it all came pouring out. And she said, Heather, it sounds like you went through a Stargate. And I, when she said it, my shoulders dropped about 4 inches, and I was in the pool, and it was like, it kind of makes sense. I certainly was being moved into another dimension or into, I don't know. It could have been stars, but there's something about them that held great consciousness. So that's all I can say. If anybody else has ideas, share them.
So it's part of the great mystery still unfolding. All right, we have a question from Tim. He'd like to know, do you still astral travel today? And how has all these experiences affected your views about death?
Well, really, since I was very little, to me, there is no death, there's only rebirth. So we are eternal. My view is that our consciousness is connected to a big, big love, to God, to the oneness. It's connected. And when these bodies die, we go on. And as a therapeutic touch practitioner, therapeutic touch is so good in hospice. And in this past year or two, I've helped a few people pass over. One of them, as I mentioned earlier, was my sister. And it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal thing. And often there are relatives that are right there in that sacred space that come to mind, come into my mind's eye. So I, my view of death remains that death is a rebirth, and that's why I love the butterfly and the caterpillar as a symbol. Death is just a rebirth. We go on. There's something eternal. For astral travel, I don't so much anymore. I used to get so much information when all these gifts came back when I started doing therapeutic touch that literally I'd be walking down the street and I'd be getting information about this person's bad knee and that person's embarrassment or that person's trauma. And it was overwhelming. And I was able, with the disciplines, to allow that to stop because it was overwhelming me and I felt like an invasion of privacy. So that stopped and it was able to work it so that only those that I was working with, who I had permission for, would I start getting all of that information. But what did start happening, and I think this might be a combination between astral travel and the dreaming thing. What did start happening shortly after I started the therapeutic touch practice was that sometimes at night, when I was dead asleep, I would hear a knock and it would wake me up. I thought somebody's at the door, and I would wake up, but nobody was there. And then suddenly the movie would start playing, and I would be right with somebody who was either dying or in a death sort of near death situation. And I was there to support by holding the love. And sometimes they would cross over to the unsane side, or sometimes they would remain here either forever or, well, for the rest of their natural life, or for a little bit in time with enough time to say goodbye to their loved ones. So there were many situations like that. Uh, One of them was which was kind of comical. My son was camping, and I was asleep, and I woke up, and I saw my son back up. It was nighttime, and he was talking to somebody and laughing, and he was backing up, and he fell off a cliff, which was, I don't know, 20, 30 feet to the ground, and there were rocks and water underneath. And I reached out somehow and held him with angel wings supporting me, I'm sure. And I'm using these words, whatever the mechanism is, and helped him land. The next day he comes home and like, Nick, did anything happen that was interesting? He said, no. It was hours later. He said, oh yeah, I actually fell off this cliff, but I was fine. So these kinds of things would happen where the gifts and the therapeutic touch would serve people I loved, people I knew. I hope, does that answer the question?
Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful answer, Heather. Ah, we have a comment from Destiny who said, your experience sounds so unique, and she wonders if the white orbs you saw in space were pure form of consciousness. Any thoughts about that?
I love that. Oh, maybe like it was like living cells, that's why it came to mind. Is this like blood cells? I didn't know what it was, but maybe it was just consciousness and maybe the manifestation. I don't know. Thank you. What a great interpretation because they were alive, but they
Mhm.
were their own thing. Like they had shape, they had mo- movement as well, even though I was sort of moving as well. Anyway, that's a great idea. Thank you for sharing that. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Thank you. Angelina has some comments here. She is grieving the loss of her daughter. Our condolences, Angelina. And she's working on acceptance. And she'd like to know, do you ever offer individual sessions? I'm sure other people would like to know that
Oh,
as well.
absolutely. On my little website, which is heathergracegurd.ca, it's got all of my contact information, and I absolutely offer sessions, which I do over the phone,
Mhm.
or we can do over Zoom. But the phone seems to work best because people can set it beside them and lay back and relax and receive.
Mhm.
100%. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Heather. A great service you're offering. I have another question, which is about your childhood near-death experience. I'm a childhood near-death experiencer too, and it often takes people many, many years to even figure out that it was a near-death experience or that some of these things like flying in the neighborhood are after effects and not everybody else is flying. So, how long did it take you to figure out that this was a near-death experience and also that all your friends were not also flying through the neighborhood?
Well, I think it took me until I was, as I was growing up, it was when I was around 14, I thought, oh my gosh, I used to think I could fly. Like, and I was very embarrassed by that. So around, I understood that the things that were happening to me as a kid, that wasn't normal. And maybe it was all in my imagination. I really didn't know at that point. Um, and maybe that's what led me to study all that I did. But then when I went to university, great university, University of Waterloo, and I did a lot of religious courses and psychology courses. And it was in psychology, and I think it was around 77, 78. I'm not sure, where I read about the medical definitions, or I think they were by Dr. Moody, on what a near death experience was. And as I read it, I was like, oh my God, I had a near death experience. And then, so it took me, I was born in 50, like 20 years to go, I had a near death experience. I knew I had something. I mean, but I didn't tell people about it. I didn't have the language as a child. So it was very cool to have that realization, and and I'm just so grateful again for the work that you do to help everybody understand that these things do happen, and you're not crazy, you're not insane, and all of these things happen when you're stone cold sober. It's not when I'm at a party having a glass of wine. That's not when these things happen. These all happen sober, and that says something too, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. You did well. It took me longer than you to figure out that my experiences were near-death experiences as a child. So you did very well. We have another question here from Dana, and she'd like to know, how do you balance your mystical life with getting through the tasks and concerns of daily life?
that is that is the thing, isn't it? I don't know if you guys know Liz Gilbert and how she wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And she's with this great yogi. And she says, I want it all. I want the mystical life, and I want the practical life, and I want love, and I want it all. And he draws her a picture, and she's got 4 feet on the ground, essentially. And she's a tree with 4 feet on the ground. And he draws her this picture, and he said, this is where you have to stand. and, and I kind of feel like that. So, how do I balance it? I think I balance it through the practice, which doesn't take that long. I lead the meditation on Sunday. I do the practice for myself. It's about 20 minutes a day. And and being very grounded in the physical world, because we're both physical and non-physical. So I have to have both. And it's it's not easy. I can tell you it's not easy, because in our own families, in our own communities, there are people who see us clearly and love us and understand our gifts. And I have direct family members who just really aren't sure if the elevator goes all the way up in my world. So it's hard. I think I'm with the Dr. Carolyn Mace way of just doing exactly what's in front of me with that smile on my face and that twinkle in my eye, and just doing it, just holding the love and peeling the carrots and buying the groceries and going to the physio and seeing doctors and balancing the physical and non-physical. But I can tell you that this meditation, using the Lord's Prayer, metaphorically in the 6 petaled rose, in the pyramid of true relationship, boy, it works. It grounds me. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me flowing. And I think that's it. I think it's this meditation practice that just allows me to do it all.
Beautiful. Thank you, Heather. I have another question for you about that experience you had. I believe it was in Chartres, where you felt like you were hit by lightning
Oh,
and then transformed, the energy going down, then energy going up, and then you transformed into a tree. Um, do you think, looking back now at that, I mean, do you think it was a Kundalini awakening?
I think there's no question that it was, because it was definitely a clearing. It was definitely Kundalini movement. I really do think that, and I think that's why I had that experience first with Janie, who, like I was shown in the life review, people coming in at the right moment, at the right time, with the right thing, meeting your need, and clearing that top of my head when I met her in the middle of the labyrinth. And then a couple hours later, excuse me, we're doing therapeutic touch. And I think all of it set me up for this moment of a huge awakening and a huge Kundalini movement and clearing. And having pain afterwards, too, I think is in keeping. So that is what happened. And I do think so. Absolutely.
Mhm, mhm. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask one more question, then we're going to wrap up. People are asking for your website, and someone entered heathergracegurd.ca. Is that the correct
That's
website,
correct.
Heather?
heathergracegurd.ca.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Jeffrey, for sharing that.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Jeffrey often attends
Ah,
Sunday morning to the
well, tell us
meditation.
about your Sunday morning meditations for people who might be interested.
Well, I usually open the Zoom call at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. So Toronto is what people think of with Eastern Standard Time. So that we can chat and we can visit. And then at 11 o'clock, I start the meditation. The way that you can join in is you go to the website. At the bottom of every page, there's something that says register here, and you just click on it. It's just your name and email address. And then you get sent the information of how to go to the website and join on to the Sunday morning meditation. So that's how you do it. We start the meditation around 11, and there are three parts to it, so people can disengage. It can serve you however best it serves you. And the first part is self-care. So we go through, I guide the imagery, and we go through the self-care process. Then we do planet care. We stop and we move into the next section, which is our prayers and words of wisdom and love for the planet. And then we go to the third section, which is where, for anybody that we have promised healing to, or family members or friends, I encourage it to be people, animals, or situations that affect you personally, that you know personally. And what we do is we do a healing through the center of wholeness, which we invoke this image of a big globe that people can go into, and we say our words of prayer and healing. And it's very much like a therapeutic touch session in a way that everybody receives. And then we're finished. It takes about altogether, we usually finish somewhere between 20 to 12 and 12 o'clock, depending on what's been going on that day and how long we were gabbing for. And the group is very intimate. There's only 4 to 6 people that are live every Sunday. The membership is only about 100 people, but I hear from them all the time because at the end, I record the self-care session and I email that out. And so a lot of people can listen to it through the week. People listen to it to get up in the morning. They listen to it to go to bed. They listen to it if they wake up in the middle of the night to get back to sleep. They use it for however it serves them. And so I send it out so you don't have to be there Sunday morning, which is really prime family time, I'm aware of. And so that's how it works. And you're all, of course, invited to join if it touches you and speaks to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. And I'll just mention to everyone too that Heather led a really beautiful guided meditation at our Spiritual Awakenings International conference last June. And that video has just been posted on our YouTube channel. So you can go to our SAI YouTube channel and watch her video there of that
Yeah.
meditation. Anyway, I want to thank you, Heather, for an absolutely beautiful, beautiful presentation. And your love just radiates and flows out from you. And it was just perfect for this solstice, Christmas, Hanukkah year-end celebration. So
Such a
thank you.
sacred time. And I thank everybody who was here. And thank you.
Thank you.